some strategies that you guys can put into place in your smart labs to help hook your learners and keep them engaged. So I'm going to turn it over to Olivia. I'll be kind of hanging out in the background if you guys have questions more specific to SmartLab that maybe I can support. But I will be here and happy to answer any questions that you guys might have throughout. Thank you, Olivia.
All right, you're welcome, Holly. I just put a link in the chat box. There are a few little interactive activities in tonight's presentation. So if you click on the link, how many of you use Nearpod already? Anybody use Nearpod already? Anybody using that? If not, we're going to be exploring it a little bit today. And you're going to go all the way at the bottom and just join as a guest. So don't join with Google. You don't have to join with Microsoft or Clever. Just go all the way at the bottom. You'll see a little tab that says join as a guest, and just type your first name and press join the lesson. And as you do that, I'll see something at the bottom here, and your name will pop up for me, and I'll see Kelly's there, Shirley's in there, and then we have about 2 more people. Aaron and Lauren. Lauren, welcome. You just got in. If you can find the chat box, there's a link there I just put in there so that we can kind of see it. So anybody, a teacher that has 20 tabs open, please try to close some of those tabs for the next hour, because sometimes you can get lost. You know, I'm going to have my Zoom open, but every now and then I'm going to say, go back and do something in the Nearpod. So make sure you have the 2 tabs open on your computer. It's going to make it a lot easier for you. Okay. And I have 3 people, Kelly, Aaron, Shirley, and I'm just waiting on Lauren. All right, looks like everyone is in there. We're good to go. So welcome to Engaging Learners in SmartLab Learning. And again, my name's Olivia Odileke. It's a pleasure to be with you today. This is our agenda. We're going to kind of talk about what are some of the challenges we may be having in the classroom, especially in terms of engagement, focusing on 3 particular areas tonight on how we can increase engagement, focusing on expectations, how we launch projects, and how to create authentic experiences. But last but not least, we'll be able to share and reflect on our learning today. My goal is that participants will discover and participate in 3 ways to engage students doing smart lab projects. So what is our challenge? Well, our challenge is to create a classroom where students feel safe to take risks. You know, when students feel safe to take risks, they're engaged. It's like, you know, their guard is down. They are more excited about what they're about to get into. And the Smart Labs really promote that. They promote this taking a risk, trying out new things and learning from your mistakes. Also, where curiosity is rewarded. We really want them to be curious. We want them to ask questions and hopefully move those questions to the types of projects they decide to choose to work on. And last but not least, share their learning is a must. They need to share what they're doing because it's not enough to create it, but we also must share it. All right, we just had someone else join us. I'm just going to put a link to this presentation in the chat box, and you can just follow those little instructions so that when we get to some interactive parts, you'll be able to participate. So this is indeed a challenge. I think this is a challenge, not just in the Smart Lab classroom, but in all classrooms. And if we can get students to the point where they're safe, they're being curious and they're sharing, then we have that engagement to the level we want to have it at. So I'm curious, what are you expecting tonight? What are you expecting over the next 50 minutes? You can feel free to type some things in the chat box. I'll give you about a minute to think and to type. Yeah, welcome, Claudia. Again, Claudia, there's a link in the chat box. You can just click on it and then join as a guest, and then type your first name and then join the lesson. And I expect 100% participation. That's one of my expectations. Is how you do anything is how you do everything. So when you show up, we show out. It's okay if you're new to SmartLab. This session is about engaging all learners. So I'm just curious what you're expecting maybe to gain from this webinar today, or what piqued your interest in signing up for it today. Anything and everything. All right. Exciting. Yes, because students, boy, they got too many distractions today, these young people, don't they? I was just doing a session on technology. Is it a silver bullet, or is it really bad? Because it's like it's doing a lot of things, but it's also doing a lot of harmful things to young people. And part of it is, you know, everyone is on social media and spending all this screen time feeling like zombies, right? And then they come to you and they be like, oh, what do you want me to do? I want you to think, baby. You got to turn that device off so you can think a little bit. All right, so we got some realistic expectations here. Just excited, trying to pique students' interest, picking up a few things to improve my teaching and ways for students to dive a little deeper into the challenges, right? That is really the case. And as they dive a little deeper, how are we making them more curious? So the first thing in engaging students is to really think about our expectations of the projects, our expectations of their behavior, our expectations of how do they do group work. All of this is very important because they have power in our lives, and ensuring that students have clear understanding is one of the most effective ways to impact student achievement. So when you get ready to make expectations, it's just not enough to say be respectful. It's just not enough to say raise your hand when it's your turn to speak. You know, those are like little things, but you really want to be specific and provide some concrete examples. It can be through a picture. It can also be through video. And I'm going to show you an example of a video of expectations set for students. Before we do that though, let's illustrate it this way. Think of when you were on an airplane. What were the expectations for being a passenger? Anybody want to jump on the mic and share? What were some of the expectations they have of us when we're on an airplane? Don't be afraid to talk on the microphone. I like hearing voices. Oh, Holly says, keep your mask on.
That's a big one right now.
Yes, huge one.
I think the one that comes to mind for me is when the fasten seatbelt sign is on.
Okay, fasten seatbelt. It has a visual. You hear a little bing, like, you know, the captain has said to fasten your seatbelt at this time. Nice courtesy reminder. But let's take a little closer look. Let's look at a video and think about how they really set us up for expectations.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your attention. It's time to get you ready for takeoff. We know you have lots of choices, so thanks for choosing American. We're happy to be your airline. Now, if you'll just follow along with me, we'll be on our way. Welcome aboard. Before we depart, here are some important safety instructions. First things first, let's buckle those belts. Insert the metal end into the buckle and pull the strap to tighten. To open, simply lift on the top of the buckle. And remember, seatbelts should be fastened whenever you're seated, just in case of unexpected turbulence. To get us on our way, make sure your seat is up, all electronic devices are put away, and your tray table is stowed. If you have a carry-on, push it all the way under the seat in front of you. If it won't fit, place it in the overhead bin. If you have a handheld device, please switch it to airplane mode now. You'll find our full electronic device policy in the back of your American Way. U.S. law prohibits smoking, including electronic cigarettes, at any time. Tampering with, disabling, or destroying smoke detectors in the lavatories may result in a fine. U.S. law requires all to comply with lighted and posted signs and crew member instructions. Now let's review the safety card. Please pay close attention.
Just wanted to show a little piece of that. But as we look at that, what questions does this make you want to ask yourself about expectations? So if you are in the Nearpod, I'm just going to I'm going to stop sharing just for a moment, because I would like you to take a moment to respond in the Nearpod and say, you know, after watching that, thinking about the models they provided and their very clear expectations, what does this make you think about? We'll give you about 90 seconds to put in some responses there.
Olivia, it looks like there's a question about where to put the response in Nearpod. Do you know where on the, oh, you're muted.
You have to have the Nearpod window open. It's going to be right in the front. You're going to see a question. Okay. Yeah, that's another reason why I sometimes stop sharing my screen, so people won't say, I'm typing it in, but it's not going anywhere. Looks like Kathy Lee just joined us. Kathy, you can just click on this link I'm putting in the chat box so you can join our session. We just watched a little short video and we're soliciting some questions from it. So you can at least go ahead and click there and join the party. I see some great responses, some questions that are generated from the group. Do I demonstrate the expectations enough or have enough visual reminders, not just words, right? Because sometimes kids are not looking at words, but those images are constantly popping in their minds. I don't think I have enough visual clues in my classroom. Someone said I have limited time. So if you have limited time, you might benefit from creating a video. And I'm going to show you an example of like a 1 minute expectation video as soon as they come in. Play it. Everybody knows what it is. If you're new, you just get a quick little reminder. Do I review my expectations enough? And someone wrote, it makes me think my expectations have been too brief or too generic, right? Because sometimes we're upset, like, why aren't they doing what I want them to do? I'm like, you have an image of in your mind of what you want them to do, but they don't know what it is. And because they don't know, there's this disconnect that takes place. And we don't want any disconnects. All right. We want them to feel empowered. So here is an example of, let me go back to sharing my screen here. Here's an example of something that's written out. Be prepared, participate, quiet environment, grow your mindset. You know, again, I have a couple pictures here and a lot of text, but especially when you're in the younger grades, and I know we have a lot of elementary represented today, they just don't get this all the time. They can't even pronounce some of these words. So here's an example of a video I made to help set some expectations for a classroom. Let's take a look at it. Let me make sure. I don't think I clicked on my audio. You always have to click on your audio. I don't think I clicked on my audio. So let me, oh yeah, it was clicked. Just wanted to double check.
Welcome, fearless student. It's time to collaborate and share your thinking on today's topic. The capacity to learn is a gift. The ability to learn is a skill. The willingness to learn is a choice. I hope you choose wisely today. So be sure to have your webcam on during our whole group discussions. We want to hear and see you grow as a fearless student. Be sure to turn your mic on when I call on you. Just think you are singing your favorite song when you talk. The goal is to build your confidence and communication skills for this course and your future. I am so excited to have you as my students. So let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So this was from a virtual class I was facilitating, and I found that students did not want to use their webcams and did not want to talk on the mic. They wanted to stay in the dark. So I said I really needed to make sure they understood my expectation is that you're on the webcam. I need to see your face. If you're afraid to talk, thank you singing in the bathroom, you know, to try to create a nice visual to go with it. And know at the end of the day, we're trying to build your confidence and communication skills in this particular class. So again, I use a program called Powtoon in order to do that. I created that video in Powtoon, but hey, you don't have to use a special video. You can, anybody on TikTok? Anybody on TikTok? Get a yes or no. Anybody on TikTok? Okay, only Haley. Okay.
I'm on TikTok. Yep.
All right. Well, you know, on TikTok, you can make videos, but you don't have to post them. You can actually download them, but you can put yourself on video and then add some text, add some other images to it, and then download it and play it in your classroom too, if you don't feel like that tech savvy. I just find that students like the music, they like the visuals, and they just remember it a lot longer. And then I don't have to repeat myself every time I'm in a classroom setting, right? Because we don't want to keep repeating ourselves, right? We already repeat ourselves enough. So just think about that as a point of engagement is when people know the expectations, they feel a little more engaged to be like, oh, I know what's happening. Because how many of you work or have worked at places and your principal or your manager really didn't talk to you to let you know what was expected of you? How did that make you feel? Anybody ever experienced that before? Hey, you're like, but then they always nitpicking you, or they, you know, petty on petty stuff. I'm like, well, you haven't really set expectations, baby. You got to set the expectations of what you want me to do and what you want my behavior to be. Hey, you said be here at 8 o'clock. I'm here at 8 o'clock. Oh, but I expect you to be here 5 minutes before 8. Well, then you need to tell me that. You need to let me know what the expectation is. So the more specific and the more clear we are, the more people feel safe and they know this is what's required. And then when they don't follow it, you just look at a picture. You say, baby, remember that one? You ain't even got to have a long conversation. John, look at number 2. Oh, okay, Miss Odileke, I'm straight now, I'm ready. We don't want to do too much talking. We do enough talking on educational things. We don't want to focus a lot on behavioral things. So let's keep moving. So I would love us to generate some expectations that can help students engage in your classroom, and some things to remember. You want to help them remember the expectation. You want to try to connect the expectation to an emotion. It's something about emotions. And when students I connected talking on the mic to singing, because I know a lot of students like to sing. So I try to connect those two emotions together. I try to connect, hey, when you're talking, you're going to build your confidence, and confidence is an emotion. And think of making a video, like I said, to model it. Maybe you get a couple students in your classroom and actually make a little video yourself. Hey, I want you to model what it looks like working in a group on this project. This is how it should look when I'm looking in the classroom. What does it look like when you're on the computer working on your SmartLab activity? So get the kids involved, let them say a couple things. It looks like I am focused. I don't have a lot of junk around me. I'm not talking to everybody around me. I'm a focused person. So what are some other expectations? Let's think about, let me give you about a minute. Let's type in something very specific in the chat box of what we could possibly expect of one of your students in your SmartLab. So I'll give you about a minute to do that. Again, we're just going to try to come up with one expectation that could help students engage in your classroom, and we try to be as specific and concrete as possible. All right, we see a couple examples there. E-portfolio should be open, and on the slide is assigned to you for that specific day. So I might have a picture of the portfolio, and I might also have the day like magnified a little big so they see, oh, the day matches the portfolio slide. Really? Yes, they match. They're not two different things, right? Also, collaborate in a positive manner with team members, okay? So collaboration, what does it look like? You might need to put 3 signs. It looks like you listening. One person is talking at a time. So you might have one person with their mouth open, the other people are quiet because you're listening to other people. Positive could be, what are we talking about? Here are some question stems to go along with what are we talking about? We're talking about project related things. We're not talking about Snapchat. We're not talking about Facebook. We're not talking about those other things. Stay with your group. You might show a non-example and an example. An example of not staying with your group is you were wandering around looking at what other people are doing. So you might have a student wandering around and you put a big X over that to say, this is not the expectation. Here's the expectation. The students, 0 time frame, 0, like they start at like 1 minute and you show them 8 minutes later, they still in the same place. So showing that they haven't left their group. If done, try to help others. You gotta be specific, because people could be walking around slapping others and knocking them side the head. They could be thinking that's helping. So how does help look? Help looks like you are asking them questions, you're giving them feedback, you are helping those who are struggling. They might not be able to solve the problem. So try to, when you say help can mean a lot of different things to students. So we want to kind of come up with maybe 3 examples of what help might look like. Quiet exit and entry, respect for the other things, use your time wisely. Okay. That use your time wisely, that's kind of hard to model, because I'm trying to think of a picture of use your time wisely. Anybody want to add some suggestions to that one? Use your time wisely, because I'm trying to think of that one.
No, I mean,
Go
Go ahead, Rachel.
So actually we go over those every day in class at the end, and they get a marble for doing each one of those things. So a lot of times we talk about it in class, what was using your time wisely and what wasn't using your time wisely. And sometimes with specific lessons, I'll actually have, these are the websites I want to see you on. Here are the links to them. And using your time wisely means that you're not looking at anything else, So sometimes a lot of times I'll provide visuals for each lesson. This is how you use your time wisely. This is where I want to see you on your screen, and this is how I want your screen to look like.
Okay.
Using
time wisely too could be, you have a timer, and in 20 minutes, I expect this task to be done, and so there's a timer and a task and a check mark to show it's completed within this time frame. That's using your time wisely. If you don't finish it, that meant you probably wasn't using your time wisely, because you've probably thought about how long it takes to get through a certain component of a lesson. So
yeah, they have 5 minutes to get logged in and get ready, and then if they're not, they get a new partner because they didn't use their time wisely with that one partner.
Oh, I like that one. I love that one. 5 minutes. That's a long time. That really is a long time to get logged in. And what grade level is that, Rachel?
It's 5th grade, but they have to get logged into Google Meet. They have to get their Pear Deck open, and it takes a while for them to get logged on.
I thought just logged in the computer, but yeah, they got to go to a couple different resources.
It's a whole new Mac computer, so they got to do all their credentials and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So as we say that, though, at the end of the day, people remember pictures. So as you think of an expectation, think of an image or a video or a movement to go with it, because we want to reinforce them. At the end of the day, we're just trying to reinforce. And even though we get on the airplane all the time, they still reinforce the same things with the same basic stuff, no matter how many times you've been here. So thank you very much for your feedback there. Let's give Rachel 3 snaps. Let's unmute ourselves. 1, 2, 3. Guys are like energy. Unmute yourself and let's give Rachel 3 snaps. Here we go. 1. Okay. All right. Engagement also starts with celebration. I hope that as students complete things on time, you celebrate them. You give them high fives. You give them 3 claps. You play the little music for 60 seconds that they get to dance to because they met the expectations of the classroom. And it creates a culture too of celebration and of meeting the expectations in the classroom. So we put this in the chat box already. So I'm just gonna move from this one. So now we're going to talk about number 2. So the first one, increasing engagement, is just as simple as setting expectations and having some visuals to go with it. The second one is project launch. And how do we create an entry event? So I know they have a lot of different choices within SmartLabs, but you also can get like an umbrella. What are some professions or careers or industries related to the topics that the students are going to be choosing? Now, to create an entry event, first of all, it's short, it's low stakes, it's a thought-provoking activity that relates to the project. And the whole purpose is to kind of motivate their heart to be engaged in some of the project goals. So for example, I may be doing a project on challenge liftoff Challenge Liftoff has a lot of things to do with rockets. It has a lot of things to do with NASA. And actually, let's just go there for a second here. Liftoff challenge. I'm just going to click on this real fast here. And so we got some different categories here: robotics and control technology. So here they're using Oxabots. They are also creating art with robotics. So I might create an entry event around just robotics and have them look at a short video on what people are predicting robots will do in the future. So I'm going to show a little short video, talk to them about, what are some of your predictions? Here are some of the predictions they have. What are some of your predictions about the future of robots? And pique their interest, get them a little curious in it. And from there, I would also generate a know and need to know questions. What do you think we would need to know in order to explore robotics on a different level? What are some things you think we would need to know? So at the end of the day, the entry event is really just trying to pique their interest in a topic they may be totally unfamiliar with. And even though they have choice in it, it relates it to something real world to get them started. How many people like that idea? Just something simple. It's not in SmartLab. This is something you come up with because as you also work with your students, you can kind of also see what they're interested in. A lot of students are interested in Minecraft. Well, Minecraft is a little bit about robotics because you got to program the Oxabots. You're programming the little robots to do certain things. So you can think about, well, how do you think Minecraft was developed? Here, let's watch a video behind the scenes. Or I got one even better for you in just a minute. But I'm gonna hold that one. I'm gonna hold that one for now. So as you look at these items in your toolbox, the key part is to think about what overreaching career or video might pique their interest about this, and how can I get them generating questions? Something as simple as generating questions also engages students in what they're about to learn. So let's go back here. I would love for you, let's see here. I'm gonna go back here. Anybody want to be like our little guinea pig and let us think of an entry event for a future project? Let's try to generate some entry event ideas for a future project. Anyone see something here on the board we want to explore and kind of brainstorm together?
Well, like to spark everybody's interest.
Basically, we want to look at a project that has, other mini projects in it and think about what kind of event or activity we could do before we get them started in the project.
Okay, I think guest speakers are a great thing to do. And I just brought a guest speaker in that does animation, and I thought that was, they just really sparked their interest, and it was somebody's parent. So it was somebody from the community, and it really got them excited about it.
Well, that was one of my little secrets I was going to share, but I'm going to share a website with you guys tonight where you can invite pretty much anybody from any industry to your classroom virtually. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in just a moment. Let's look at, anybody have a project that's coming up and you haven't started it yet, or you're thinking about starting it soon, so we can think of more ideas that could be an entry. Rachel just said she invited a parent in to kind of be a Q&A, or to kind of talk about the topic a little bit before the students got in it. Anybody have any of these that I'm showing on my board you about to do? So we can generate some ideas. I like computer graphics. I feel like this is very relatable. So let me click on that one. So they got a couple options here.
I haven't done it yet, but a lot of my students, they like to use GarageBand. And so I know there's a lot of local artists in my town and they use GarageBand. So I would like to invite them in, or even have them virtually just kind of talk about how they're making music and maybe demonstrate some of the tools that they use on GarageBand.
I love that. I love that because it makes it real. And then as they're making it, they can see themselves being like that. I mean, I see myself producing music. I see myself creating music. Thank you, Kelly, for coming in and jumping right on the bandwagon.
Sorry, I was driving. It's like,
it was driving.
Participate.
Photoshop. I love Photoshop. A lot of I would go and find a little short video on how Photoshop is used to make trailers for movies. How, you know, when you go to the movies and you see that picture, where does it come from? It's made in Photoshop. The professionals use Photoshop to create these engaging, you know, curious pictures so that what? You can go spend money. You can go buy a ticket to go watch a movie, or you'll want to go click on the trailer. So there are a couple quick little short videos on that. Something may even be on TikTok that I could play for 1 or 2 minutes. And then I say, what does this make you wonder? What do you notice about this person? What does this make you curious about? What questions would you have to ask a person who develops, you know, posters for movies? And get them thinking like, that's a career, that's a path you could possibly put yourself on, you know? So it's those kind of things that are going to get students engaged, but at the same time, give them some type of experience and get them talking about it before they start actually working in the projects. Anyone else want to share or have some feedback on that? So
Yeah,
sorry,
interrupt. I am a circuitry, so that's been kind of a tricky one to tie into. I mean, obviously the real world, you have electricity, but do you have any examples or ways we could maybe sell that a little? Yeah, the makey we've been doing.
Okay, let me look at this one programming one. LED lights. So for example, you might show LED lights lighting up, you know, being on a show, being on a stage. How many people are using all of these lights? And you go to a concert and they're having a good time, but what is going on behind the scenes? How are those lights programmed? We're going to talk about it. Or, you know, what does that make you curious about? What questions would you want to ask someone who develops the lighting for your local artists? So that's something right there. I love stuff like this because I love inquiry. I love, you know, making students curious because sometimes they just don't see how something relates to something they already like doing and seeing.
I had something. So Bridge Designer is one of the software available, and we live in Chicago and there's bridges everywhere. And we just do a whole little introduction about all the types of bridges. And then I have like half the kids looking around identifying bridges, but then they're also, some are using Bridge Designer, and then some are trying to build the bridges using any materials, and then they flip it. So there's like, or actually, because of COVID last year, nobody was on the computers. We had like people working, doing anything with cardboard because we couldn't use the manipulatives and all that. So trying to do a regular hands-on activity that corresponds to the software, whether you do it simultaneously or just that's the introduction, and then going on to the Bridge Designer. Because the Bridge Designer was the one where you got to build different bridges and you had tests that you ran, trying different structures and learning what the best ones are. So I think some kids did better by doing the software before they did the actual construction of it.
And what happens in real life is usually we draw things out before we put it on, we make the real material, because materials are expensive. And so that's a professional skill right there. Shirley, I would even push them a little further. I would think about looking online for maybe a developing country where there's an isolated community and they have a river and they have to design a bridge, but they have limited resources. They have a budget. You know, how are you going to help them create a bridge that's going to allow young people to go to school on the other side versus taking the boat every morning to cross it? So we can actually tie it in to something that is also social, you know, a social cause, to also have them have empathy and say, baby, you could one day go around the world and design bridges for communities that don't have the resources to have a designer do it for them.
Yeah, and initially they actually did have to do the drawings on paper and pencil and scale and label. So they went through a lot of different steps to get where they went. But yeah, it's all part of it. But I like the idea of doing a problem-based learning exactly with a realistic problem. So that sounds great. Thank you.
And then it might even be, let's find an organization that might just be taking ideas, because you'll be surprised at how many organizations are out there doing things like this. And then we can talk to them. Hey, we can go to the website I'm gonna share with you and look for bridge designers internationally working in developing countries. I'm gonna get real specific. I'm gonna get very specific. So I know we shared a couple, but I got a couple people I didn't hear anything from. So if you would like to type one possible entry event that can spark students' interest, let's take a moment and just type any other ideas that might have come to you while we were having this conversation. I'll give you about 90 seconds to do that. And Kelly, I know you came in a little late, so I'm going to put the link to this Nearpod so you can have access to it also. I'm going to put it in the chat box for you, okay? Just open up two things. So you can just click on that link and join as a guest. This also can, thinking about these things can also make us a little more curious about these projects and how they relate to real world events. So I just challenge you to keep kind of thinking out of the box, because the more we think and the more we're curious, the more it makes it easier for the students to be curious, because you could be like, oh, it's already there. Everything is there. I'm good. But maybe you see it and say, no, I wonder what this term means, or I wonder how they produce this. Maybe there's a video on how this is actually produced in a factory, and I can kind of show them the inside approach and say, you're going to be putting your professional hats on and you're going to be designing things like this person. What kind of questions would you ask this professional that might help you in your design of your project? So again, another way to help make them curious and generate responses. So thank you, everyone who put a response there on the board for us. All right, number 3, the next way to help engage is to create authentic experiences. We've already kind of talked about having a speaker come in and maybe speak about a topic during the entry event, or you can have them come in the middle of the project. Maybe they're working on the project for a week, but maybe they're coming up with questions or they're thinking about things you're not an expert in. So you could invite an expert in to do a question and answer, but you would help them generate the questions before you invited the expert in. And we're going to invite the expert in virtually. Literally put them through Zoom, throw them on your whiteboard. What are some ways you can make your SmartLab projects feel more real to your students? So that's one way. What are some other ways we could make our SmartLab projects feel more real to our students? Let's unmute ourselves and kind of think about that question.
I think just sharing like to an audience that they know is outside of their classroom. So we do like a morning announcement stream to the whole school. So if they know they're sharing it out to their classmates, they're, more eager to make it a great project.
Excellent. Sharing it out to other people besides their classmates to make them interested in it. I love that. I love that. 3 snaps for that one. Thanks for stepping up and responding. What other ways can we make it feel real? Because sometimes their engagement is low because they feel like you're the only person looking at their project. Oh, it's just a grade. That's nothing. It's just a grade. So how can we make them feel like it's more than just a grade?
With some of my students, if I have two groups working on the same project in the class, I kind of try to make it somewhat of a competition, just to kind of, especially boys, they're very competitive. So, if I make it kind of like that, they're more interested, more involved in it.
I like that competition, especially when you have a lot of students. Like Erin said, you have a lot of students. Sometimes the competition could be at the end of your project, each student will get a feedback sheet where they will score your project on certain categories. So they get some kind of feedback from their peers. And then the top 3 or top 4, we're going to make a little video on them and we're going to post it to a blog, or we're going to send it to an expert to offer even more feedback on it or something like that. So you really get them thinking like, oh, well, first of all, peers are going to give me feedback. And then the top ones are going to be able to do something authentic with it. Oh, I want to be in that top category. I'm going to take this serious.
Oh, I love ideas.
So again, here, invite a professional for Q&A. Have a student create videos of their final projects to post to a blog. And a blog is searchable. And they'll feel like, hey, you put this on the website? Yeah, put it on the website because we authentic. And then have a little comment section. Well, maybe people who find it can offer feedback or comments on what they did. And again, that feedback could be like 3 little check marks or a scale based off their rubrics. And then they go around and give each other feedback on their projects. And then the final ones, the top performers, present to an authentic audience. And that audience doesn't have to be in your classroom. Again, think out of the box. It could be a virtual audience that comes in. A lot of adults, a lot of people in the industry, they want to give feedback to kids, but they can't always come in our class physically. So yes, and making it relevant to their lives because it becomes more real. Because they're used to social media. I mean, even if they're in 5th grade, some of them got social media accounts already. So they could make their video and you'd be like, okay, babe, you can post that to your social media site and see what your friends think about it. Right? And they're like, oh, I got like 20 likes, Miss Odileke, for my project. I can't wait to my next one. I can't wait to show them what I do next in my SmartLab. And here is the link to Nupris. So we're going to go ahead and bookmark it, click on it in the Nearpod. And what you're going to do is you're going to sign up. It's free. It's totally free. You're going to sign up. It's a network of industry professionals who can virtually bring some relevance, talk about career exposure, and they volunteer their time to do this. So here, educators, you can browse, you can look at a video library, you can explore some careers. So maybe you're looking at a project, you're not quite sure what careers might fall under it. And then here are the professionals. You browse those who are volunteering, and then you can request on the professionals, browse the volunteers. But once you go inside here, look for educators. Let's click on that one. So you can join in the industry offered virtual chat. Maybe you just join in a chat, let them review some chat, or you can request a guest speaker for your classroom. Authentic audience for PBL lessons. Look right there. Boy, I tell you. Get your little 3 people on your panel list for your top 4 projects. We're gonna make this thing real, baby. And you just never know. That could open up so many doors and make them much more curious about the work they do and see the relevance in it. You can even have a little panel, where, and see, again, you would just click requests. And you can browse video industry videos. So if you don't have time to participate in a live virtual session, they have some videos already related to some of the projects you're working on, and you can browse some videos and play that as your entry event to get them involved in that project. So please go ahead and bookmark that at the top. It should have opened up into a new window, and you can just bookmark it by pressing the star, and you can go back to that page. How many people like that resource? Give me a woo woo, I like that. Woo woo.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, the key thing is we don't want to make you work harder. You already working hard enough, but there are just little things we can do to make it tighter, right? To make what we do have a little more structure and have a little more engagement in it. All right, let's move forward. So I got some affirmations. We're going to unmute ourselves for a moment. We're going to act like we're in a classroom, and I want you to put your hand on your heart. It's something about making affirmations and feeling your hand on your heart and feeling a vibration. Okay, so everybody unmute themselves for me, please. And we're going to repeat. We're going to say this affirmation like a choir, but we're going to say it like we're in a wedding. We're going slow. We ain't going too fast. Okay, we're going to take our time. So let me see all the buttons unmute. I need to see all the buttons unmute. I'm waiting on Claudia, Lauren. Thank you. All right. All right. Okay. Are we ready, ladies? Let's go. 1, 2, 3. I plan
intentional
engagement activities that encourage student-centered discussions and offer authentic learning opportunities.
So my students
are more motivated to learn and grow
in my course.
Go ahead and take a picture of that. I want you to say that every day you come to your classroom, because one of the things with the entry event and the authentic audience is we want students talking about what they're doing. It's not just do the project, it's do the project, talk about the project, do the project, talk about the project. Let's discuss questions. Let's discuss challenges. Let's discuss barriers. Okay, I'm not the expert. Let's call the expert. Anybody, that could even be a thing. You could be doing a project and say, phone an expert. Anybody want to phone an expert? Here, go put it up on this thing. Okay, we got at least 5 people that say they want to phone an expert. And then I'm going to go to NEPRIS and I'm going to phone an expert and set up a thing because my students say they want some more information and they're taking more ownership of their learning. And it can be powerful. It can be very powerful. And you can even do some affirmations too at the end of your class. Hey, I plan to work hard. I plan to meet the expectations of Miss Shirley's classroom. You know, I plan to use my time wisely because I got places to go and people to see. Okay, so put that in the kids, because the more you put it in the kids, the more they see themselves in these roles. We don't want to make these roles just about a grade. This is life skills. This is professional skills that you are giving students that's going to take them to another level. Isn't that powerful? That's very powerful.
Yes.
That's why I love project-based learning. It's just a very magical time where students get to think. So let us take a little time to reflect. Let's think about how will you incorporate these engagement strategies in your classroom. You don't have to do all of them, but maybe we focus on one for the next week or two that we want to focus on. And go ahead and write that down. So I'm going to take about 1 minute and allow you to just write that question down and jot down at least one way you will incorporate these engagement strategies in your classroom.
Where is my Nearpod at? Oh my goodness.
Well, I want to thank everyone that showed up this afternoon. I know, ladies, you do a lot to impact education, but take a moment again. If you need a little more time, I would spend at least 5 more minutes thinking about my classroom, thinking about what can I do? What realistically can I do over the next week or two? We would love to have your feedback on today's session. So there's going to be a little short link that pops up on your screen next. Hope you'll take a few minutes to just complete that. It should be very short and simple. And hopefully we see you at another webinar focused on things that will help support you in your smart labs.
Thank you, Olivia. And
You're
just as a
welcome.
reminder, guys, we'll be adding a recording to the facilitator resources section on the Launchpad. So if you want to rewatch it, if you want to check out any of those slides, we'll get them in there so you guys can access those later. And our next webinar we'll be holding in April. So hopefully we will see you then. And thank you again, Olivia, for sharing with us some of your expertise. And I can't wait to see from you guys what you implement. Definitely, if you have something to share, please feel free to drop it in our Facebook group for SmartLab facilitators. You can find it through Facebook if you're not yet a member, but that's a great space to share some of what you're implementing and share it with the rest of our facilitator community.
Thank you very much. It was very